thought our trip was a dream, until I discovered the lies that cost me everything. From the moment we stepped off the plane, the world seemed perfect. The sun gleamed over the coastline, birds danced in the sky, and the hotel lobby smelled of fresh flowers and polished wood. My husband smiled constantly, his charm effortless, and I let myself sink into the illusion that everything was as it should be. The suite was immaculate, the bed soft, the minibar stocked with everything I loved. I laughed freely, feeling safe and cherished, believing this trip was a reward for all the years of hard work and compromise I had poured into our lives. Every evening, he suggested adventures, dinners, or quiet walks, always attentive, always making me feel like the center of his world. I trusted him completely, my heart open, my guard down. Yet, beneath his perfect smile, I sensed fleeting shadows of unease. Subtle inconsistencies, a canceled reservation, a phone call he hurriedly silenced, hinted that this dream might be built on cracks I couldn't yet see. Little did I know. The paradise I adored was a carefully crafted stage, hiding a truth that would shake my life to its core and leave me questioning every choice I had made to trust him. The golden illusion held me captive, and I was blind to the storm silently gathering behind it. At first, the signs were almost laughably small. A bill for a dinner we never had, a charge for a flight I hadn't booked, messages on his phone that disappeared the moment I glanced at them. My mind twisted each anomaly, wondering if I was imagining things, but a pit in my stomach told me otherwise. I confronted him casually at first, masking my worry with a smile. "Did you handle this reservation?" I asked, watching him over my coffee. He laughed, brushing it off. "Oh, probably a mistake. Don't worry about it." But his eyes flickered, a tiny hesitation I couldn't ignore. That hesitation grew each day. When friends asked about our trip plans, I felt a subtle pressure to maintain appearances, to smile and explain with confidence, even as suspicion gnawed at me. I feared that any hint of doubt would make me appear weak, unstable, or gullible in the eyes of our family and social circle. Every intercepted call or vanishing message added weight to the unease. My thoughts spun in circles. Was I losing my grip on reality, or was he orchestrating something I couldn't yet see? The tension tightened like a noose, blending fear and FOMO. I wanted to confront him fully, but also feared the consequences, the embarrassment, the judgment, the possible unraveling of the life I had carefully curated. Even as I tried to act normal, a storm of questions and what-ifs churned inside me, leaving me restless and alert, waiting for the moment the cracks would finally split wide open. The moment I saw the account statement, my stomach dropped like a stone. $100,000 gone. Every carefully saved dollar, every sacrifice I had made, vanished. I stared at the numbers, thinking it must be a mistake, a glitch, anything but reality. But the truth hit me like a freight train. The family trip, the perfect smiles, the laughter. It had all been a lie. My husband's charm, the hotel reservations, even the carefully curated itinerary, none of it was real. I remembered fleeting moments I had brushed off before. The way he hurriedly closed his laptop, the unexplained calls late at night, his small mistakes that always conveniently vanished. Flashbacks assaulted me. Countless times I had bent over backward, supporting him, trusting him, only to be ignored or subtly mocked for my efforts. I recalled that dinner where he belittled my career ambitions. That weekend I stayed home caring for his mother while he insisted on a boys' trip, and the way my opinions were always sidelined in family decisions. Anger surged hot and raw through me, mingled with humiliation. How had I not seen it sooner? How had I been so blind? My hands shook as I confronted him, voice tight with disbelief. "How could you do this?" I demanded, eyes burning. He stumbled over explanations, half-truths, excuses that barely formed sentences, his confidence evaporating under my gaze. And then it hit me, the full extent of the manipulation. I had been played, not just financially, but emotionally, socially, completely. The family trip, the perfect husband, the flawless facade. It was all a stage for my downfall. I felt a bitter twist of betrayal, realizing that the life I trusted had been constructed to deceive me. There was no going back, no naive trust to cling to. only the searing clarity that I had to act, or I would be lost entirely. I shut myself away, locking the world out, as if the walls of our house could protect me from the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. Nights blurred into mornings as I sat alone, replaying every smile, every word, every carefully constructed lie. The silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating, and I felt the weight of every sacrifice I had ever made, unseen, unappreciated, dismissed. Friends called, family checked in, but I waved them off, unable to explain the storm churning inside me. My mind circled the same questions. How could someone I trusted so completely betray me? Was I overreacting, or had I truly been blind? Slowly, the haze of shock gave way to clarity. Anger sparked, mingled with a cold determination. I couldn't undo the loss, but I could decide how to respond. Thoughts of revenge tempted me, dark and thrilling, yet morality tugged at my conscience. Was it enough to expose him, to make him feel the humiliation I endured, or did I need something more? I imagined scenarios, weighing each step carefully, testing the lines I was willing to cross. My heart ached with loneliness, but amid the pain, a seed of empowerment took root. The betrayal had stripped me bare, but it had also awakened a fierce resolve. I realized that isolation, as unbearable as it felt, was the only place where I could gather strength, plot carefully, and prepare for the reckoning that I now knew was inevitable. He walked around the house with a smug sense of victory, convinced I had crumbled under the weight of his lies. He didn't see the fire quietly building inside me, the careful calculations forming in my mind. I spent hours poring over bank statements, legal documents, and potential loopholes, searching for a way to reclaim what was mine and more. Every page I read, every contact I reached, strengthened my resolve. I confided in a close friend, someone who had always known my instincts were sharper than they appeared. "I can't let him get away with this," I whispered one evening, pacing the kitchen, voice low but fierce. "There has to be a way to turn this around without losing myself." My friend nodded, offering advice and resources I hadn't considered, financial experts, lawyers, and even former colleagues who could quietly assist. With each plan I sketched, the vision of a future beyond his manipulation became clearer. A life of independence, luxury, and undeniable power. I imagined walking into rooms with confidence, untouched by his previous control, every interaction a subtle but undeniable statement of triumph. For the first time in weeks, I slept with a sense of purpose. Excitement mingled with the lingering sting of betrayal. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was strategizing, plotting a reversal he could never anticipate, and imagining the look on his face when he realized the game had changed. And I held all the cards. The news spread faster than I could have imagined, though I hadn't intended it to. Friends, family, even casual acquaintances seemed to know about the betrayal before I could process it myself. Every glance felt like judgment, every whispered comment a confirmation of my humiliation. I walked into gatherings that had once felt warm and familiar, now icy and hostile, and I could sense the pity and disbelief in everyone's eyes. My husband paraded his confidence, seemingly untouchable, while I felt the weight of exposure pressing down. Yet amid the shame, a strange clarity emerged. I remembered who I truly was beyond the whispers and stares, strong, resilient, and capable of reclaiming every ounce of dignity he thought he had stolen. Contrast framed every moment. The weak, crushed version of me everyone expected, versus the sharp, calculating woman silently rising behind closed eyes. My mind cataloged every slight, every smirk, every dismissive comment, transforming anger and humiliation into strategy. The tension in the room was almost palpable, feeding my resolve. I realized the social battlefield was just another arena where I could rewrite the story, proving that appearances could be deceiving, and strength could emerge quietly but undeniably. The audience watching this unraveling would feel the sting of betrayal, the humiliation, and the simmering promise of eventual vindication, each moment a brushstroke in the portrait of power I was beginning to paint. I began reclaiming control in ways that felt almost invisible but carried enormous weight. Late nights were spent researching investment opportunities, quietly moving money into accounts he would never suspect. Each small success, each secure transaction was a private victory, a whispered declaration that I wasn't defeated. I started planting subtle doubts among friends and colleagues, not with lies, but with carefully chosen truths about his questionable decisions, the gaps in his stories, the inconsistencies no one had noticed before. It was a delicate dance. Too much, and I would draw attention. Too little, and nothing would shift. The thrill of these subtle maneuvers filled me with a cautious optimism, a sense that I was finally steering the course of my own life. Every meeting I attended, every call I returned with newfound confidence, chipped away at the image he had so carefully built. The contrast was undeniable. While he believed I was broken and submissive, I was quietly reclaiming not just my finances but my self-worth, my authority, and my sense of purpose. For the first time in months, I slept at night feeling the stirrings of hope, knowing the eventual reckoning would be mine to orchestrate. It started with a single email, almost lost among the dozens I received daily, an unexpected investment opportunity that seemed too good to ignore. I studied it obsessively, weighing the risks against the potential returns, every calculation igniting a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in months. Conversations with financial advisors became exhilarating rather than stressful. This could change everything, I said aloud during one late-night call, the words tasting like freedom. Each step I took built momentum, and for the first time, I felt the thrill of being in control rather than manipulated. I imagined my husband walking through the house, oblivious to the fact that I was quietly building a future he couldn't touch, a future far beyond his comprehension. With each strategic decision, my confidence surged. I was no longer the victim of his lies, the naive wife who had trusted blindly. Karma began to take shape in my mind, a quiet, satisfying revenge that didn't need to be loud to be devastating. The financial gains, modest at first, hinted at the luxury and independence I had only dreamed of before. And the most delicious part? He had no idea. He walked around, smug and unchallenged, while I silently prepared to turn the tables. The thought of the eventual revelation kept me awake at night, anticipation mingling with satisfaction, a secret power growing with every careful, calculated move I made. The day he decided to flaunt his wealth publicly, I was ready. Invitations to lavish parties, exclusive gatherings, and casual boasts about his supposed successes littered my social feeds, each one designed to show the world he had won. But I had spent months quietly building leverage, assembling allies, gathering evidence, and preparing the perfect moment of reckoning. That night, as he toasted to his success among friends and family, I arrived with calm confidence, every step deliberate, every smile measured. Conversations I had orchestrated behind the scenes began to unfold naturally, exposing discrepancies in his claims, questionable business dealings, and lies he had spun to inflate his image. Whispers spread, then murmurs, then open disbelief as the truth became undeniable. The air shifted. He stiffened, his smug expression faltering under the weight of scrutiny he hadn't anticipated. I watched, heart pounding, as people he thought were on his side questioned him openly, every misstep magnified. Legal documents I had subtly leaked to the right hands ensured the evidence couldn't be dismissed. The humiliation was surgical, precise, and utterly satisfying. For months I had imagined this moment, and it exceeded every expectation. The reversal was complete. He had underestimated me, assumed my weakness was permanent. And now, publicly, he was exposed as the manipulator I had always known him to be. I felt a rush of vindication, the blend of anger, justice, and empowerment washing over me, a stark contrast to the fear and despair he had inflicted. In that room among the whispers, the shocked glances, and the undeniable truth, I realized that the game had changed entirely, and I held all the power. I moved into a home that once felt like a distant dream, its marble floors and sunlit windows a daily reminder of how far I had come. Every detail reflected my hard work, strategy, and refusal to remain a victim. My career thrived in ways I hadn't dared to imagine before, each accomplishment a quiet declaration that I was no longer defined by his lies or manipulation. Friends and colleagues who once dismissed me now sought my insight and respect, and I felt a profound sense of satisfaction in being recognized on my own terms. Walking through the rooms, I occasionally paused, reflecting on the journey from fear and humiliation to this new, empowered reality. The memories of sleepless nights, whispered doubts, and the sting of betrayal remained, but they were tempered by triumph. The helpless woman who had once questioned her worth had transformed into someone confident, strategic, and fully in control of her life. Each step I took, each decision I made, reinforced the stark contrast between then and now, the vulnerability I had endured and the strength I now commanded. And yet, beneath the joy and luxury, a quiet awareness lingered. The lessons of betrayal, resilience, and patience were permanent, shaping not only the life I had built, but the person I had become. I finally faced him, standing across the room with a calm I had spent months cultivating. The tension between us was palpable, every breath weighted with unspoken accusations. "Do you realize what you've done?" I asked, my voice steady but edged with anger. He shifted uneasily, attempting his usual charm, but it no longer worked. I made mistakes," he mumbled, eyes darting, aware that I now held the power he once assumed was his alone. I outlined every betrayal, every manipulation, every lie he had spun, watching as his smug confidence eroded with each word. Friends and family bore witness, their expressions ranging from shock to disbelief, validating my truth without me needing to beg. The dialogue became a rhythm, each exchange a reclaiming of authority I had lost for too long. I set boundaries, declaring what I would no longer tolerate and asserting my independence. The empowerment that surged through me was intoxicating. I felt my voice, my choices, and my worth firmly reinstated. When I left the room, it was with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had confronted injustice head-on and emerged unbroken, unshaken and undeniably free. Sitting alone that evening, I let myself breathe, letting the whirlwind of months settle into clarity. I thought about trust, how easily I had given it, how painfully it had been betrayed, and how carefully I would extend it moving forward. Resilience had become my constant companion, forged in sleepless nights and quiet determination, reminding me that even in the darkest moments, I had the power to rise. My sense of self-worth, once shaken to its core, had been rebuilt piece by piece, strengthened by the victories I had quietly orchestrated. Yet the satisfaction was bittersweet.
Memories of humiliation, deception, and lost time lingered like shadows.
I allowed myself to acknowledge the pain without letting it define me, understanding that growth is inseparable from struggle. Every lesson I had learned about boundaries, vigilance, and valuing my own worth was etched into my being. And as I reflected, a profound sense of empowerment filled me, tempered with humility and the quiet reverence of someone who had survived, evolved, and emerged stronger, capable of navigating life on her own terms. I finally stepped into a life that was unequivocally my own. Financial independence gave me freedom I had only imagined before, each decision made without hesitation or compromise. I established clear boundaries, unshakable lines that no one could cross, ensuring the past could not repeat itself. Relationships that had once drained me were redefined or ended, replaced by connections built on respect and honesty. Every achievement, every moment of control, reinforced the truth that I was no longer a victim, but the architect of my destiny. The betrayal that had once threatened to define me now existed only as a memory, a lesson, and a catalyst for growth. I could look back without bitterness, recognizing that the pain had been necessary for transformation. There was full closure, the satisfaction of seeing justice served, the thrill of quietly orchestrated revenge, and the deep, enduring knowledge that I had reclaimed every piece of my life. The world now saw a confident, empowered woman, and I carried that truth with calm certainty. My past failures transformed into the foundation of lasting victory. As I stood on the balcony of my new home, sunlight spilling over the skyline, I allowed myself a rare, unguarded smile. Every challenge, every sleepless night, every ounce of anger and pain had led me to this moment of quiet triumph. I thought back to the shock of losing $100K, the humiliation, the betrayal, and even the fear I had felt in those first disorienting days. And yet, in this clarity, I realized that loss had been a gift in disguise, a brutal, necessary push that forced me to see my own strength, to reclaim my independence, and to step fully into the life I deserved. The luxury, the respect, the confidence, they were all sweeter because I had earned them through resilience, strategy, and unshakable determination. Looking out across the city, I whispered to myself, a mix of awe and satisfaction threading my voice. Losing 100K was the best thing that ever happened to me. In that moment, the past felt like a distant shadow. The present was undeniably mine, and the future boundless, waiting for every choice I would make with full awareness, power, and freedom.